Hello, my name is Chrissy Champagne, and you are listening to Residue, a true crime podcast dedicated to keeping you paranoid. Okay, we did it, you guys. We made it to episode 50. We have been doing this for 50 weeks straight. I haven't missed a week. I haven't missed a beat. So today, I wanted to give you one of the first true crime stories that I ever heard as a child. It blew my mind that people existed like this in this world. I wanted to share with you the story of Shanda Sharer, and I want to give you an extreme trigger warning for this one. It is a really hard listen. It is going to involve the murder, the torture of a 12-year-old child. It is also going to involve sexual assault and child molestation. So please, I beg you, proceed with caution in this one. And once again, thank you for joining me for my 50th episode. This one is titled At the Witch's Castle, The Horrific Murder of Shanda Sharer. In Utica, Indiana, in a place called Mistletoe Falls, there sat a castle. A spooky, isolated castle tucked away on a wooded hillside. Legend says that this castle was once inhabited by 9 witches who controlled the entire town of Utica. Some believed the folklore that the townsfolk tried to burn the castle down to destroy the witches and the hold they had upon this town. They must break the curse of the witch's castle. And no one believed this story more than 17-year-old Laurie Tackett. Laurie believed fiercely in this legend. And so she spoke eagerly to the other 3 teenage girls in the car that she was driving in. Well past curfew on a weekend night, these girls were out driving around trying to take a trip to the witch's castle, and none of their parents knew where they were. In the car with Laurie was 15-year-old Hope Rippey, 15-year-old Toni Lawrence, and 12-year-old Shanda Sharer. The 4 girls were on their way to the castle to meet their friend Amanda, Shanda's girlfriend. But unbeknownst to young Shanda, who had just met these girls this night, 17-year-old Melinda Loveless, Amanda's ex-girlfriend, was hiding in the back seat of the car under a blanket, ready to kill. WHAS, a Louisville ABC affiliate station, was the first to cover the breaking news story. A young girl's mutilated body was found on a desolate road near Madison County. The cause of death was burning and smoke inhalation. 2 quail hunters had spotted something on the road that they described as a burnt pile of rags. Brothers Don and Ralph Foley believed that the object might even be a blow-up doll that someone had burned as a joke. Don was a Vietnam vet, and he inspected the body closer, even scratching at a toenail to see if this was real. The brothers suddenly realize that they are staring at the burned corpse of a young woman. Her upper face and body were burned beyond recognition. Her legs were bloody and spread wide open. She was only wearing a pair of blue panties that had been pulled to the side. Pieces of skin were fluttering on her body with every movement from the wind. The brothers frantically sped back to town to report their findings, and soon local police would be at the scene. Police could not wrap their heads around this jarring scene, and they even believed that this must be a joke that someone was playing. Okay, let's start from the beginning. 12-year-old Shanda Sharer, born June 6, 1979, was the daughter to parents Jackie Vow and Stephen Sharer. Shanda's parents divorced when she was a child, and soon her mother would remarry. This would cause the family to now move to Louisville, Kentucky. In Louisville, Shanda attended a private school while she was an all-around spectacular student and athlete. Shanda excelled at volleyball, cheerleading, and softball. In June of 1991, Shanda's mother would soon find herself a single mother once again, and the family would now move to New Albany, Indiana. Shanda had attended private school most of her life and was excited to finally get to start attending a public school called Hazelwood Middle School. Shanda was described as an easygoing kid who liked to help people. She was a sensitive girl who didn't like to hurt people's feelings. Shanda was your typical preteen. She loved going to the mall, dressing in trendy clothes. She adored dressing like Madonna, talking on the phone, and meeting boys. And Shanda was gorgeous, striking. She was a striking beauty who caught the eye of everyone that she passed by. She was only 12 years old, but looked so much older for her age. She was very well developed for her age, and Shanda wanted to shed her goody two-shoes image once she entered public school for the first time. Here is an entry from Shanda's diary before she attended Hazelwood Middle School. Dear Diary, I can't believe it, but it's true. It's time for a new school year. Let me tell you what I'm looking forward to the most and what I'm dreading the most. Well, this year I'm going to a different school. I'm sort of scared I won't fit in because I heard that there are hoods, pretty girls, and all those guys. I wish my mom would understand that I don't want to be 12. I want to be 13. I wish I could tell people that I was 13, and my mom would go along with that, but I know how my mom is. She's not that kind of person, but I would love it if she would. I would work hard, but I'm already going to do that. I love my mom very much, but she doesn't understand how much that I want to be 13 and have people spend the night on school nights and talk on the phone past 10 o'clock. Love, Shanda. Shanda was just a child. The second Shanda entered that public school, she attracted a ton of attention from the boys and from the girls, and mainly from a girl named Amanda Heverin. Amanda was head over heels for Shanda. And Amanda had a girlfriend, an on and off again girlfriend named Melinda Loveless. And now Melinda was not too happy about this gorgeous, cute Shanda coming into her school and stealing the eye of her girlfriend Amanda. And in Melinda's eyes, rightfully so, because Melinda was the queen bee at this school. And now Shanda's coming in, not only stealing her spotlight, but stealing her girlfriend. Shanda was only 12 years old. Amanda was 15, and Melinda was 15 at this time. Melinda Loveless was born on October 28, 1975, to parents Marjorie and Laurie Loveless. Melinda was the youngest of 3 sisters. She had an older sister named Melissa and a sister named Michelle. Melinda's parents got married at a very young age. Melinda's mother, Marjorie, was only 16 and still a junior in high school when she married Laurie Loveless. Laurie was 20 years old, and Marjorie would say that Laurie was like a dream come true for her. She was head over heels for Laurie. This 16-year-old bride would say that everything felt like a fairy tale except for one thing. Laurie was very sex-oriented, and he would make Marjorie do things that she did not want to do. But now she's his wife, so she is willing to go along with anything to please Laurie. It didn't take long for Larry to start showing his true colors. About 4 months into the marriage, Larry is now following Marjorie to school every day. She is still in high school. She had always planned on graduating high school, but Larry made that extremely difficult for her. He was incredibly jealous. He would become enraged by even just a thought of Margie getting any attention from anyone other than him. Margie ends up dropping out of high school, and about a year later, Larry is drafted into the Army. It's right about this time that Margie finds out that she is pregnant with the couple's first child, baby Michelle. After the birth of Michelle was when Marjorie starts learning more about Larry's jealous streak. She had some incidents where she would speak to a neighbor and Larry would find out and he would lose his mind, chase the man down, beat him with a broomstick one day, and this was only because this neighbor had talked to Margie. He was extremely jealous, extremely possessive, and extremely suspicious of every single move that Margie made. She knew she needed to leave this marriage, but she felt locked in now. She felt that they have a child. This is what you do. You stay married, you take care of that child, and you do what your husband says. Larry starts displaying the classic narcissistic move. He's creating a wall around Margie and her family. She didn't have any friends. Her sister, Frida, hated Larry, and for good reason. One night, Frida, at only 13 years old, came over to stay at Margie and Larry's house, and Margie went to bed with baby Michelle, and as they're sitting on the couch together, Larry reaches into Frida's pants, into her underwear, and tries to grab her. Frida jumps up, says, "Oh, fuck no, Larry." She takes off, she tells her sister, and she is like, "Margie, you gotta end this." But that was only the beginning for the hell that Margie and her 3 children are going to now endure. By the time Margie was pregnant with her second daughter, Melissa, the abuse intensified. Not only was Larry now abusing physically, emotionally, sexually his wife, but he was also having affairs all around town, and Margie found out about it. The moment she found out about the first affair is when things started to just go completely downhill for this couple. Even after she had just given birth, Larry is telling her that she is ugly, that she is fat, that he wishes he never married her. Larry would call his wife a whore, but then say, "No one would ever have sex with you. You're too disgusting." So what is it, Larry? Am I a whore, or does nobody want to have sex with me? Margie knows that she can't leave her husband. She has no money. She has no job. She has no skills. She has 2 children now. So looking for some love and affection, she actually starts to have an affair with her next door neighbor. Larry and Margie are both cheating on each other, and they have 2 children in the home. But to make things a little more fun, they decide that maybe they should join the swingers game in town. So Larry starts making Margie dress in these really provocative outfits. He loves the mini skirts, the black pantyhose, some heels, and they hit the bars and they hit the town trying to find some couples to bring back to their home. They can all have a little orgy in the house while the babies are asleep. Most times Larry is feeding Margie pills and whiskey to get her to come out to these bars with him, to get her to bring people home. She was not really ever a willing participant in any of this. Around 1972, the New Albany Police Department starts putting ads in the newspaper saying that they need some more police officers, and Larry applies and Larry gets a job as a police officer. His wife and his 2 children would say that this made them even more frightened because now Larry would walk around in his police uniform, carrying his gun and his handcuffs, trying to threaten everyone, make everyone else feel uneasy whenever he was around. He loved feeling like he was in control of every situation. At this point, Michelle is 4 years old, Melissa is 2 years old, and these 2 babies are already knowing what it feels like to feel threatened and uneasy around somebody. Melissa would say that this is around the time that she learned how to be cautious. In the book Cruel Sacrifice by Aphrodite Jones, Michelle recalls that at this point her father Larry would use his handcuffs and he would tie her to her bedpost with them. She's 4 years old. She also said that Larry would threaten to take her out to the garage with his brass knuckles and punch her. She says that he would get a piece of wood, like a 2x4, and demonstrate on that wood what those brass knuckles could do to his 4-year-old daughter. Things are only getting worse for Margie at this time. Larry is forcing her to have sex with his friends. Larry is also telling her that she belongs to him. One day, the family is driving in their car. They're stopped at a red light. A car is next to them, and the man driving that car waves over at Margie, who's in the passenger seat of Larry's car. Margie waves back and gives a smile. Larry loses his goddamn mind. In front of the children, Larry is screaming, "You fucked him, didn't you? You fucked him." And Margie is basically like, I don't even know if I know him. I think he's our neighbor or something. Well, it doesn't take long for Larry to call one of his police officer friends named David Stasser, and the two of them go find this man, and they beat the shit out of him, to the point where the guy has to go to the hospital. After this incident, Margie is now telling Larry, "I'm leaving. We're done." But Larry gets his gun out, and he tells her, "If I can't have you, nobody can have you. You're dead. I'll blow your fucking brains out." And then they lived happily ever after. No, just kidding. So then what they did is they had another baby. And this baby's name was Melinda. Margie now has 3 mouths to feed, 4 if you include her 4th child, Larry. And even on the day that Margie gave birth to Melinda, Larry was just out gallivanting on his motorcycle with another woman in town. In the beginning of her life, Larry refused to believe that Melinda was his child. He was convinced that Marjorie cheated on him or that she had gotten pregnant with one of the many men that Larry would force her to have sex with. But even with these raging thoughts that Larry is having about Melinda not being his own child, he still continues to force Marjorie into these horrific sex parties, and it's always in their own home. It's after one of these sex parties that Margie can't take it anymore. After walking in on Larry once again having sex with a strange woman in their basement, Margie goes upstairs into their bathroom, fills the bathtub to the top, and tries to drown herself. Marjorie ends up being okay, but it's soon after this incident that Larry decides that the family needs to go to church. They are now going to become a church-going family. Now, this family never went to church, and suddenly Larry is deciding that things are going to have to change. There is no more parties, no more sex parties, no more drinking. Larry quits drinking cold turkey. Was this because Larry found God? Was this because Larry hit rock bottom? Or was this because Larry is now being accused of sexually abusing his own children and their cousins? The girls had a cousin named Teddy, and Melinda adored Teddy. Teddy was said to practically have raised Melinda from the age of an infant to 6 years old. Teddy would go home and tell her mother, Charlotte, a story about Larry. Teddy would tell her mother that for years, Larry was taking her into the woods and doing things to her. This was all going on until Teddy reached the age of about 14. When one incident happened that caused the family to never see Teddy again. Michelle would tell author Aphrodite Jones that her dad burned Teddy. She would say he burned her head. He caught her on fire. He caught her hair on fire, and then he said, "Oh, don't worry. I'll fix it. I'll cut it and fix it for you." And then Larry shaved that little girl's head bald and sent her home to her family. Larry didn't only hurt other children, he also hurt his own children. He would say that Melissa was his favorite because she was more of like a tomboy and would hang out with him. Michelle was the one who he would punish. She would say that there were numerous times that her dad would lock her in a closet for punishment. He would leave her in there long enough to the point where she would have to urinate on the floor. Larry ruled that family, and finding God wasn't going to change that. Melinda would go on to say that her mother was never into Jesus or the Bible or anything. Her mother was into Dad. Melinda would say that her mother never spoke about God or the Bible. Dad was her God. Do whatever Daddy says. Just be quiet and do what he says. I say all of this about Melinda's backstory because it is very important to understand the household that this girl grew up in. One of her most traumatizing incidents is when she had a doll named Patty. She loved this doll. It was her best friend. Patty was a 3-foot-tall doll. She had blonde hair, and she was the type of doll that you could hold her hand and she could walk along with you. Melinda was in love with this doll. She even slept with her. And one day, Larry decided that the doll was possessed by demons and it needed to just be destroyed. You know, Melinda is begging her father, no, please, this is my doll, my BFF. And Larry is like, well, I'm going to burn her. And he took her. And Melinda said, how could you do this to Patty? Margie actually went out searching for a new doll to buy Melinda that was just like Patty. And she did end up finding one that was sort of the same, but Melinda recalls that it was never the same. That was her best friend, and that was her favorite. And she ended up hating her father for that. Finding God didn't help Larry at all. It was only disguising his hatred towards everything and everyone. At one point, he decided that his daughter Melinda needed to be exorcised. He says that the rest of the family had already gone through it on numerous occasions, and Melinda needed it to be done just a bit differently. Now, Melinda says that she doesn't recall what happened while she was being, quote, exorcised, but what happened that day was that Melinda, at only 5 years old, was taken to a motel, and she was left with a 50-year-old man for over 5 hours. As Melinda grew older, she became a gorgeous little girl. Her dad would often brag about how beautiful his daughter was, always focusing on her looks and telling Melinda that she was the greatest, the best, the most beautiful, and showing her off to all the men in town. In turn, Melinda started to adore her father. She was at his beck and call for everything. If he and Margie got into a fight, Melinda would be pissed at her mom. Margie said that she would often find Melinda massaging Larry's feet, just doting over him. When Margie and Larry would fight at this point, Margie would get up the courage to try and leave or to push Larry away out of the house, and Melinda would lose her mind. Melinda would end up throwing such tantrums and crying until the point that her mom would just give in and stay with Larry. But secretly, Marjorie found a place where she could get counseling for domestic violence. She was going to this counseling on the down low. Shortly after Melinda started attending Hazelwood Junior High School, Marjorie finally got up the courage to leave Larry for the last time. She filed for divorce just before Thanksgiving. Margie ended up admitting during a private therapy session, Larry was sexually perverted. He did perverted things to me, and I would lay there and let him do them to me. I would always pretend I was somewhere else and pray that what he was doing to me would be over soon. I look back in horror at what I allowed to happen, what I endured. I was afraid of him. He had convinced me that I was worthless and I had no rights in our home. Melinda was having severe separation anxiety from Larry. And to make matters worse, as Melinda is entering her junior high years, Larry, who now lives in Florida, sends a photo to the family telling them that he remarried, and this is a photo of their new stepmother. And just like losing her doll, her best friend Patty, Melinda now feels like she lost her best friend, her father. She felt neglected. She felt jealous that this woman had taken her place. And now Melinda is going to try to navigate those feelings with no one to talk to about anything she's going through. And now Melinda is entering junior high, and Melinda is going to start her own relationships. Melinda was adored at Hazelwood Junior High. As I said before, she was the queen bee. She was gorgeous. She was beautiful. She wasn't so great at her studies. She didn't have the best grades. She was a year older than all of her peers because she had been left behind in elementary school. Melinda ruled that school. And Shanda was about to enter that school, and Shanda had no idea what she was up against. It is now the early 1990s in high school and junior high, middle school, and we all know that there were no cell phones. And to communicate with each other during class, we would write love notes, BFF notes. I am now going to read you the letters.
Shanda, hey girlfriend, what's up? Please don't let Melinda bother you. Please don't stop liking me because of her. I tried to call you about 3 times, but your mom said you couldn't talk. I said, okay, thanks. I was wondering, do you still like me? If so, I'm glad. I have a lot in store for Friday or Saturday, something you've been talking about for a while now. Do you know what I mean? I'm just joking, or do you want me not to joke? Do you want me to happen what I got in store? If so, answer back yes, if I see you Friday or Sat, okay? So how you and Ray doing? I saw you all walking in the halls holding hands with each other. Goodbye. I walked behind you yesterday to Mrs. Walker's room yesterday. Well, gotta go. Love, Amanda. P.S. I think I'm starting to like someone. You know her.
Amanda is writing to Shanda because Melinda is now at this point bothering Shanda in school, calling her ugly, saying her hair's ugly, saying she has no boobs, she looks disgusting. And Amanda is kind of going behind Melinda's back now and trying to woo and love bomb Shanda. But she also makes reference to a boy named Ray, because at this point, Shanda is getting a lot of attention from a guy named Ray, and Amanda is quite jealous, even though Amanda has her own shit going on. And I have to stop here for a minute. A lot of people don't talk about Amanda. Amanda is someone that isn't really involved in this story, but she really is. Amanda was the cause of this whole thing, and she kind of played both girls back and forth.
Shanda, hey, I'm in band, 6th, and I saw you today coming out from fire drill. I thought you looked very cute. Listen, Saturday maybe we can hang, work something out, like you meet me somewhere, we'll hang out. I'll talk to you about it. Love, Amanda. P.S. Yes, I will flirt. Will I have sex or make love with you? That's a big question for such a little girl. Can you back up your word? I still can't believe all that stuff you said. God, want to kiss me, have sex, well, love me? With God? The reason I always leave when you with Ray is I get jealous.
Amanda get jealous. But you know who else gets jealous is Melinda. Melinda's going to get very fucking jealous. And this is what Melinda is going to write to Amanda.
Amanda, why did you write her fucking name on your folder? It hurt so much when I saw it. I didn't think you would put her ugly name on your folder and you wrote it. You must have liked her enough to write her fucking name. Why? Well, I'm gone. Melinda. P.S. Just tell me you like her once, because I know.
Melinda sounds a lot like Laurie Loveless. And point proven even further when we see a letter that Melinda now writes Shanda.
Shanda, don't be mad at me, please. I want to be your friend. I just don't like when you speak to Amanda when I'm not there. I mean, why can't we all 3 be friends? You act as if you got something going with her. Amanda and I are going together, and she loves me, and I love her, and she only wants to be friends with you. You need to accept that. Shanda, Amanda told me you're going through bad times. Well, if you need someone to talk to, you can always talk with me. I don't want you sneaking behind my back. Why don't you speak to Amanda when she's with me? You need to find you a boyfriend, because Amanda is mine. You could even ask her. Please talk to both of us, or you can forget about Amanda. You, me, and Amanda need to have a talk together and get this squared away. Then we could all be friends. Sorry I'm writing so sloppy. Can you meet us at lunch? Your friend, Mel.
This letter is from Melinda to Amanda.
Amanda, I love my hair. It feels so much better. I really don't want you to go to the dance, but if you really have to go, I just want you to go with me. I don't want you to go without me. We can talk about Friday at lunchtime. I don't really want to wait around Friday, so I might go out with Carrie Pope and then have her drop me off at Hazelwood at a certain time. Well, I'll talk to you later. Love, Melinda. Melinda loves blank, 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 blank. You can fill in the blanks.
And Shanda and Amanda go to the dance together, and Melinda shows up at the dance with her friend Carrie, and Melinda proceeds to slap the hell out of Amanda and then chase Shanda around the high school. This is not good. So at this point, these two are like, yo, we gotta back off of this relationship. We have to either do this in private or cut it off completely. And what do you think they decide to do? They're 12 and 15. They're gonna sneak around behind Melinda's back. I will read you 2 final letters to show you exactly what these girls were dealing with. This is Amanda writing both letters to Shanda.
Shanda, hey honey, yes, I do love you, but it just feels like Melinda has got me in some kind of trance. I don't know how to get out of it. I'm scared. If I try to get out, something bad will happen. I am scared to death. Love ya, Amanda. Hey Shanda, thanks for the note. Hey, I don't think I should ever tell Melinda that we are going out together. She would probably kill you. Yes, I love you a lot, Shanda. Honey, we'll talk after school. Love you, Amanda.
Now, Shanda's keeping all of these letters and she's hiding them in her room, and it does not take long for her mother, Jackie Vout, to find these romantic letters from Amanda. And Jackie does everything right in this situation. Jackie calls a meeting with Shanda's father, with Amanda's father, and she doesn't end up ever hearing from Amanda's father. He feels like it would just be a gang up if he was in a room with these two parents about his daughter. So what does Jackie do? She does the next best thing she possibly could do. She pulls her daughter from that school, from Hazelwood Middle School, and she puts her back into private school. But that does not stop Shanda and Amanda. They are still figuring out ways to talk to each other. And Amanda is still talking to Melinda. It is around this time that Melinda is trying to get other girls on her side. She is trying to get her other friends to help her kill Shanda. She is literally telling them, I am going to fucking kill her. And these friends are either not taking her seriously or just trying to brush it off so they don't have to make Melinda upset. Because everyone knows we don't want Melinda upset. One night, Melinda is hanging out with one of her friends named Carrie, and Carrie gets a call from this girl named Laurie Tackett. She is 17 years old. She is from Madison County. She does not want to be in Madison tonight, and she wants to get away. So she's basically asking Carrie if she can come to her house to hang out. Now, this is how Melinda meets Laurie Tackett. Laurie Tackett was born on October 5th, 1974, and she was actually named Mary Laureen and went by Laurie. Laurie was born to parents George and Peggy, and Peggy noticed as Laurie was growing up as a young child, she was very moody, she was very self-absorbed, she did not like to play with other children, she was always by herself. Her mother would say that Laurie's moods would flip in an instant. She would go from super cheery to incredibly pissed off in the blink of an eye. Laurie grew up in an incredibly religious household. Medicine was something that only sinners needed, her mother would say. So Laurie wasn't allowed to go to the doctor or take medicine. Laurie said, when I was at home, I was never allowed to express myself. My mom's weird. She doesn't try and help herself. She prays to God and believes God will take care of everything. It was around age 14 that Laurie decided she wasn't going to be going to church anymore, and she was starting to get more in tune with her sexuality. Laurie identified as bisexual. Of her childhood, Laurie stated the following: I don't remember my childhood, just nightmares and dreams. All of my memories are violent. One of the only things I remember is a hallucination I had when I was 5. Hands the color of the rainbow were coming out of the floor. Then gray ones, all wrinkled up, were straining to get further out of the floor, trying to grab me. Laurie soon starts to hate the church, and one day her brother found a journal she had where she had written the words, "I want to be a boy and I hate God." Laurie starts now dressing in all black. She's taking more of a punk style, a punk attitude. She is rebelling, and she is now considering herself an atheist. She is having problems at school. Her teachers are saying that she isn't getting along with anyone. Her friends notice that she is pulling away. She feels like she's different from all the other kids, and she feels like most of them are making fun of her for her new punk style and her new views on life. She does have one exception to that rule, though. She has a friend named Hope Rippey, who is 15 years old. And Laurie at this point was 17 years old, but she ends up treating Hope like her little sister. Hope Rippey was born in June of 1976. She was a 7th grader attending Madison Junior High School. She was said to be an average student, and Hope didn't pose any disciplinary problems at home or at school. She was even interviewed later on a Dr. Phil episode where she revealed that she had no problems growing up. She came from a great family. There was no abuse. She had a happy childhood. Hope had a stable home life. She was on the basketball team at school, and she also ran track. At school, her two best friends were Laurie Tackett and Toni Lawrence. So now we have our last player to enter this story, Toni Lawrence, age 15. Toni Lawrence was born on February 14th, 1976, and she came from a pretty wealthy family. At age 15, Toni already had two older sisters who were married and had their own children. So it is safe to say that Toni was enjoying life at home as the baby of the family. She was a little spoiled, and she was given anything that she wanted. Toni was a very petite young lady, and she wore really thick-framed glasses. Toni's father would say that the worst thing she ever did as a teenager was maybe lie about where she was staying overnight at a sleepover once. Teachers and school counselors would say that Toni had a, quote, good head on her shoulders, and that everyone had expected her to go on and have a very successful life. She loved poetry, reading, writing, drawing. She also had been a very depressed young lady. But since Toni was so active, so social, none of her friends really realized how depressed she was inside. Toni just liked to keep things to herself. So in 1990, when Toni was sexually assaulted by a boy in her class, she didn't tell anybody. Toni's mother, Glenda, one day found a letter that Toni wrote to a friend, and in this letter, Toni was detailing everything that happened to her during this sexual assault. Once her parents found this letter, they took Toni down to the police department, and they wanted to press charges against this young man, but the police said the most they could do is give the young man a restraining order. So this made Toni incredibly depressed, and this was when her parents brought her to a counseling facility in Madison County. Toni attended one counseling session and then never went back. The lives of Shanda Sharer, Melinda Loveless, Laurie Tackett, Hope Rippey, and Toni Lawrence are about to collide. It is the evening of January 10th, 1992. Laurie Tackett is going to drive Toni Lawrence and Hope Rippey to Melinda Loveless's house in New Albany. It is at this point that Hope and Toni are going to meet Melinda for the first time. Melinda is going to tell these two young girls that she hates this girl named Shanda. Shanda is always copying her. Shanda is trying to steal her girlfriend. Shanda is just the worst, and she wants to fucking kill Shanda. Laurie already knew the plan, so now Melinda's going to explain the plan to the two girls that just arrived at her home. These two girls that she's never met before are going to go along with what Melinda's about to tell them. So what's going to happen is all four girls are going to drive to Shanda's father's house. Shanda was staying at her father's house for the weekend, so Hope and Toni were to go to the front door, ask for Shanda, and then tell Shanda that Amanda wanted to meet her. Love-struck 12-year-old Shanda is going to think that Amanda is waiting for her at the witch's castle. That is when the girls would take Shanda up to the witch's castle. Melinda would jump out, scare Shanda, and then, as Melinda said in the car ride on the way to Shanda's house, I can't wait to fucking kill her. But things don't go exactly as planned for the girls. First, Hope and Toni arrive at Shanda's front door that Friday night. Shanda answers the door along with her father, and Hope and Toni ask, "Is Shanda home?" Shanda's father finds this pretty odd, as would I, because these girls asked for Shanda, but Shanda's at the door, staring at them. So basically he knows they don't know his daughter. Hope and Toni tell Shanda and her father that Amanda wants to meet up with Shanda, and they're here to pick Shanda up and take her to Amanda. But Shanda's father is like, no. He tells the girls to leave. He tells Shanda, this ain't happening. You are not going anywhere with these two. And Shanda ends up telling Hope and Toni that they should come back in a couple of hours because her father will soon go to bed and she'll sneak out the window and they can pick her up and take her to Amanda. Toni and Hope arrive back to the car. They tell Laurie and Melinda what just went down. Melinda is pissed. But Toni and Hope are like, whatever, we can go do something else for a couple hours before we kill this child. So the four girls decide that they're going to go back to Louisville and they're going to go to a punk rock show and just hang out at this punk rock bar for teenagers for the next couple of hours. Melinda and Laurie are inside at the punk rock show, just pretending like they're not going to kill someone later, enjoying their life. Meanwhile, Hope and Toni are in the parking lot hooking up with some boys. Hope even tells one of the boys that they're on their way to go kill a girl tonight. Soon, the four girls decide to head on back to Shanda's house, and this time Hope is going to be driving. Once they start driving, Melinda is just excited beyond belief, explaining her plan to the girls, telling them everything she wants to do with Shanda. She keeps showing them her knife. She tells the girls that she thinks that Shanda is cute and that she really wanted to have sex with her. And one thing she wanted to do was take the knife and run it up and down Shanda's stomach. Now let me tell you something. There are so many instances so far. I haven't even gotten to what happens to Shanda yet. Up until this point, can you count how many times these girls had time to change their mind? To actually reconsider what's going down right now? I mean, while they're driving back to Shanda's house, they're getting their little asses lost so much, they can't figure out the interstates. They don't know where they're going. They're finally back at Shanda's house, and now Toni refuses to go back up to the door. Toni's starting to have some panic attacks. She's going to be the first one that starts to genuinely freak out about everything that is happening. But Hope goes up to the door. She gets to Shanda, and Shanda is basically like, listen, I don't know if I really want to go. I don't like what I'm wearing. And then Hope is like, oh no problem. I'll come up to your room with you and help pick out something cute to wear to go see Amanda. Back at the car, Laurie is covering Melinda with a blanket and tells her, here they come. Here come Hope and Shanda. Laurie tells Toni to get out of the passenger seat, and she wants Shanda to slide in the middle. So it's going to be Laurie driving, Shanda in the middle, and then Toni in the passenger seat. Hope is going to be in the back by herself, but really Melinda is hiding under a blanket, ready to surprise Shanda from behind. Shanda is immediately uncomfortable. She asks, where's Amanda? Laurie says, she's at the witch's castle. And off they go. As they're driving, the girls start asking Shanda, do you know Melinda? Do you know that Melinda used to date Amanda? And Shanda is a little flustered, and she was like, well, Amanda and I are going together now. And that is when Melinda jumps up from the back seat and yells, surprise! Guess you weren't expecting to see me. And that is when Shanda starts losing her mind, crying, screaming, yelling, please don't hurt me. And all Melinda can say back is, shut up, bitch. Melinda pulls the back of Shanda's hair, pulls her whole head back, and holds that knife up to Shanda's neck. Shanda is hyperventilating. She cannot breathe. She's just asking to please stop. Melinda just keeps going in on her about Amanda. Are you with Amanda? Do you love Amanda? Shanda just keeps saying no, and Melinda is saying, you're lying to me. I just heard you tell the girls you guys were together. The car has now pulled up to the witch's castle, and all 5 girls are getting out of the car. Melinda took one of Shanda's arms, and Laurie has her other arm as they're leading her up to this castle. Hope and Toni are just following behind. They're barely doing anything. They're actually using their lighters to light the way. Laurie takes rope out at this point. She starts tying Shanda's ankles together, and Melinda's going to hold Shanda down and start tying her wrists together with rope. Shanda is tied up and in a panic. In this point, Melinda is just berating Shanda, telling her how ugly she is, asking her why she wore her hair this way. Now Hope gets the knife, and Hope is teasing Shanda with a knife. She's threatening her. She tells her to take off all of her jewelry. She takes all of Shanda's rings, and she even takes Shanda's Mickey Mouse watch. Hope is teasing, doesn't Shanda have pretty hair? And Melinda is saying, yeah, and I'm going to cut it all off. It's at this point one of the girls lights a t-shirt on fire and says to Shanda, that's going to be you next. The girls are acting tough, but they're getting really scared because cars keep going back and forth. So they decide to get Shanda into the car, and they're going to go to a different place that's a little more private. Laurie says that there's a place near her house that they can all go and have some privacy. Hope starts driving the car. Toni's in the passenger seat. And now Melinda and Laurie have Shanda between them in the back seat. But they decide to put Shanda on the floor and cover her with a blanket in case she tries to get anyone's attention and ask for help. They arrive to a wooded area with a gravel road. Laurie instructs Hope to park the car, and then all 5 girls get out of the car again. It is at this point that Toni turns and hugs Shanda, and Shanda begs her, please don't let them hurt me. Toni then begs Melinda to please, let's just take Shanda home, and Melinda tells her to shut the fuck up. Laurie and Melinda are going to make Shanda strip down to her underwear, and Hope and Toni cannot take it at this point. They get back in the car to wait for this to be over. Laurie is going to hold Shanda's arms behind her back and yell at Melinda to hit her, and Melinda does. She punches Shanda straight into the stomach, and Shanda goes down. She starts begging for her to stop. She tells Melinda she has asthma. She cannot breathe. With Laurie still begging Melinda to keep hitting, Melinda takes Shanda's head and she slams it into her knee over and over until Shanda's mouth starts bleeding. At this point, Laurie and Melinda are going to try to hold Shanda down so that they can cut her neck with a knife, but the knife is too dull and they can't get it to go through. So Melinda actually starts trying to step on the knife, still holding it against Shanda's neck, and then it is at this point that Hope jumps out of the car and she tries to help the girls by holding Shanda down. Toni remains inside of the vehicle. As Toni looks out the window, she sees that Laurie and Melinda are both sitting on top of Shanda. They have rope tied around her neck and they are pulling it. She sees that Shanda is starting to pass out. The girls drag Shanda back to the car. They throw her into the trunk, and this is when Hope asks, is she dead? And the girls tell her, yes, she is. Thinking that they have killed Shanda, the girls go back to Laurie's house, chill out, hang out, and have a little Pepsi. It's at this point that they notice that Laurie's dog is barking pretty loudly at something and they don't know what it is. They go outside to investigate and they can see that Shanda is still alive. She is asking for help. She is in the back of the trunk, banging on it and crying. Laurie runs out to the car with a knife from her kitchen and she repeatedly stabs Shanda over and over, then goes back upstairs to her bedroom and tells the girls everything is okay now. It is now 2:30 in the morning. They must get rid of Shanda's body, so Hope and Toni say no, they're not going. They stay at Laurie's house, and Laurie and Melinda take the car and they drive it out to that same gravel road to dump Shanda's body. Laurie's next plan is that they drive around all night until the morning and they let Shanda slowly die in the trunk. But as they're driving, Shanda is still alive. She is kicking. She is screaming. So Laurie stops the car again, gets out, says she will take care of this, and Melinda says that as she was looking through the rearview mirror, she could see Laurie open the trunk, and then she said she heard Laurie throwing punches and heard a loud thump. This is when she says Laurie got back into the car and says, "You should have felt it. It was so cool. I could hear her head caving in. Here, smell it." And then she holds this tire iron up to Melinda's nose and tells her to smell it. The tire iron was dripping with blood. Melinda and Laurie continue to keep driving around, and Shanda continues to keep getting back up. There was one instance where Melinda went to the back. She opened the trunk. She said that the moment she opened it, Shanda just popped right up and said, "Mommy." The sun is now coming up, and Melinda and Laurie decide to go back to Laurie's house, pick up Hope and Toni, and now they must get rid of Shanda. They decide they are going to burn her. After the girls arrive to a burn pile, Laurie asks if anyone wants to see what Shanda looks like. Toni says no, she stays in the car. She's hysterically crying. Hope excitedly jumps out. She has Laurie open the trunk. When she sees Shanda, Hope grabs a bottle of Windex sitting in the back of the trunk. She starts spraying the Windex all over Shanda's wounds, and she says to her, "You're not so hot now, are you?" When the girls stop to get gas, they also buy a liter of Pepsi. They pour the Pepsi out and they fill that container with gasoline. Now they have arrived at the spot where they are going to burn Shanda's body. The three girls lift Shanda's body from the trunk. Shanda is clutching a blanket still at this point. She is still alive. Laurie says to Hope, "Pour the gasoline on her." And Hope does. No one knows who lit the match or who threw the match, but Shanda immediately goes up in flames. The girls take off, but it isn't long before Melinda says she needs to go back and make sure the job is finished. Melinda has them drive her back to Shanda's burning body, and Melinda pours out the rest of the gasoline all over Shanda. Now, this next part is pretty graphic. I know what you've heard already is graphic. I just thought I'd add this part of the story in because I want you to be as disgusted with Melinda as I am. Now, Melinda jumps back in the car and she starts making fun of the fact that as Shanda burned alive, her tongue was going in and out of her mouth. Melinda says she looked disgusting. "I'm glad that she's dead. You should have seen it. It's so funny. I'm glad she's dead. I'm glad she's out of me and Amanda's life." And then the girls went to McDonald's and they ordered breakfast. And while they ate breakfast sausages, Laurie looked at her sausage and said, "This looks like Shanda, doesn't it?" I rushed through a lot of that because my brain can't wrap itself around what I just said to you. I want to read a section of the book Cruel Sacrifice by Aphrodite Jones because I want you to get the full effect of what Shanda looked like when police found her. There was a pool of blood underneath her head. Her legs were slightly bent and raised at the knees. Her hands were in the classic clinched boxer position. This position is associated with a fire victim. Her hands were tightened up from the reaction to the intense heat. Both the hands were partially covered in a pseudo-casting material. Whatever material she was holding had melted down, forming red cast. Along with the face and upper torso, the hair had obvious thermal damage. There were clumps of hair that had burned off. There were other clumps that were blackened, matted, and stiff like a paintbrush. Lesser thermal damage existed on the lower torso of the body, but it was an equally horrifying sight. She had some blistering on her legs from the heat, and the victim's blue panties were only partially burned. They appeared to be purposely pulled slightly to the left side, around the vagina. The anus of the deceased had an unusually wide opening, and the body appeared to be posed in a sexual way, which suggested some kind of sick molestation. It is believed that one of the girls inserted the tire iron into Shanda at some point during the night. Shanda's father, Steve, is going to now file a missing persons report because he cannot find his daughter on the morning of January 11th, 1992. This missing persons report, coupled with the fact that the two hunters had found the body, they are now going to put together that this body is the body of Shanda Sharer. By January 12th, Melinda Loveless and Laurie Tackett are arrested. Before their arrest, Hope Rippey and Toni Lawrence had already turned themselves into police. Now all 4 girls are going to be charged as adults, and they are all going to face the death sentence. But there would be no trial because all 4 girls are going to take a plea deal. If you thought that this story angered you up until this point, let's get you a little bit more upset. Toni Lawrence, plea deal, 20-year sentence. In the year 2000, after serving only 9 years, Toni Lawrence was released. In jail, Toni Lawrence did get a college education and earn a diploma. Hope Rippey, plea deal, 60-year sentence, reduced to 35 years. After serving only 14 years, Hope Rippey was paroled in 2006. Hope Rippey held Shanda down, sprayed her with Windex, and Hope Rippey poured the gasoline. And Hope Rippey is a free woman. Extra special anger content, look up Hope Rippey's mugshot. She's smiling like it's her senior picture day. The lovely Laurie Tackett, plea deal, 60 years. She served 25 years in prison, and Laurie Tackett was released in the year 2018. And the queen bee, the one and only Melinda Loveless. She took a plea deal to serve 60 years, and she served 26. Melinda Loveless is a free woman. She was released in 2019. Before Melinda Loveless was released from prison, she was a part of a program. This program was called the Indiana Canine Assistance Network, or the ICANN program. The Indiana Canine Assistant Network is a program that trains and places dogs with people in Indiana who have disabilities or are incarcerated. Melinda was one of their best trainers. According to Wave3.com, while Melinda was incarcerated, they said she had a new lease on life as a trainer of service dogs for the disabled. Melinda Loveless became one of the most trusted and competent trainers in the history of the ICANN program. A breeder named Charlie Patrizio, he was also a burn victim. He was a breeder who supplied dogs to the ICANN program. He was very impressed with Melinda's success, and he actually reached out to Shanda's mother, Jackie Vout, and he asked her if she would please watch a videotape of Melinda working with these dogs. Okay, this part's gonna make me cry. So Jackie watches this video, and she says, Melinda was compassionate. I think the ICANN program allows her to have something in her life that shows her unconditional love, that she can show that love back to, and there's a result. And there's never any betrayal on either side. So Jackie Vout then adopts and donates a dog to the ICANN program. And she names this dog Angel after her daughter. And she says they can have this dog, but she wants Melinda to train this dog. Jackie faced so much criticism over donating this dog to Melinda, and I understand why she did it. I do understand why some people were also upset, because we don't know what it's like to be put in this situation. This whole entire case is something that nightmares are made of. If this happened to me, I don't know that I could be as good as a person as Jackie was. Jackie said, "It is my choice to make. She's my child. If you don't let good things come from bad things, then nothing gets better. And I know what my child would want. My child would want this." Jackie did an interview with Dr. Phil, and in that interview, he asked her what would her wish be for these 4 girls. And Jackie said, My wish was that they would stay in prison for the rest of their lives and that their cell would be covered with pictures of Shanda's body and they would hear Shanda's scream. They would hear constant recordings of her screams for help for the rest of their lives. That was my hope for all of them, and I do hope that they are haunted by this. Thank you so much for joining me for this week's episode of Residue. We did it, you guys. We made it to episode 50, and we're only going to keep going up from here. I appreciate the hell out of all of you. Thank you for coming back every week. Thank you for supporting me. Thank you for sharing with your friends. Thank you for leaving reviews. It means everything. Until next time, stay safe and stay paranoid.